Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in to AFTERBUZZ TV's recap of Episode 5, Friends and Family of Roadies, and we are super excited to have Roadies' very own Peter Cambor with us here in the studio, so we're going to talk about all the deets of the latest episodes. Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Good times, bad times.
Why are we introing with the Zeppelin song? Because we learned a little bit of a factoid in this episode that I myself did not know.
Yes.
Very exciting to find out. I won't say it right away. When we get there, we're gonna jump around with the details of this episode just a little bit.
Because there are so many to get into.
Lots of details, yeah.
So much happened this episode. My mind was like
action-packed. Thank you guys for tuning in. I am your host, Tamra Brown. You can find me on Twitter at BrownTamra. You can find me on Instagram at Tamra_blue. And before we introduce our special guest, let's go over to Madison first. Where can we find you?
Hey everyone, I'm Madison Conklin. You can find me on Twitter at Maddie Says This and on Instagram at Conklin, CONKLYNN.
Yeah, and we are so excited to have in the studio with us today Roadies' very own Milo. So thank you for coming into the studio today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Where can everyone find you, Peter?
Oh, at Peter Cambor. That's PeterCambor. And
on the internet.
That's on Twitter and Instagram at Peter Cambor. It's really easy. I'm
Very
really
easy.
to find.
I need to do that with my stuff because I'm all over the place.
I got in early, I feel like. Like, I remember I happened to be on a show, and the publicists were like, you got to get in on this Twitter thing.
Because the following thing, totally.
Yeah, I mean, I had like a Yahoo email account.
Are you on Snapchat?
No, I can't. I'm tapped out on my social media.
What? Snapchat's so amazing.
I'm sure
really
I don't doubt that.
I think before we wrap the episode tonight, I'm going to do a live snap story.
Please show me how to work because I don't understand it.
There's a learning curve to it. Learning curve. So guys, we're talking about episode 5, Friends and Family of Roadies, Showtime's Roadies tonight, and this was an action-packed episode. Lots going on.
Yes.
So we can talk about the episode, but I feel like while Peter is here, we should really take advantage of having one of the most fun characters in the show. Like
you're a wild card.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So much fun. Every scene that Milo is in is just so enjoyable.
Very humorous.
Yeah. When you first auditioned, did they have you do an English accent?
Yeah, so when I first went in, it just was sort of in the breakdown was this whole thing about he's got like a faux British accent, and that was kind of what they left you with. And I went into the room, and I kind of had this idea that it should be really, really, or trying to be really thick, and then all of a sudden he kind of drops it when it doesn't, when bad things happen to him, when he gets nervous or whatever, some sort of information comes up or something like that. So that was kind of what we went with, and so I kind of went in and auditioned, and then the second audition I met with Cameron, and we just like worked for 45 minutes kind of off of that vibe, being that he had been on this tour with Elvis Costello before, and he sort of had adopted the accent. And of course, like, it's a funny gag, but you have to try to make it like be real somehow. So it was kind of this whole thing of doing that. But when we sort of worked on it, it was like when his mom would call, we did this whole like improv, like he would lose the accent because he didn't want to talk like around his mom, or like when someone would call him out on something, he would drop it, or if he got nervous. So there became this kind of rules for what the reason was. And then, of course, he gets completely called out for it
by Reg.
By Reg in the second episode, and just drops it in its entirety. So
okay, we're done.
Yeah.
I mean, I know people like that who work the accent and don't. Do you guys? Do you know somebody that does that?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't even know what that was. That was like
that was Cockney.
That was good. It was like
a wild card.
It was Australian Cockney.
Australian Cockney. Yeah. I used to. I actually am guilty of that. I would do it at bars. Like one summer, because I had just come home from Australia and I took a dialect class at school. So one summer is actually when I was out here. I'd go to bars and I'd just throw it on, and people are like, "Oh my God, you're from Australia?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Wait, what?" I mean, "Oh, yeah." I'm like, totally
wait. Now we have to hear the Australian accent.
Yeah. Okay,
that's
hold
a hard
on.
one.
And
it's really hard. I mean, you set yourself up for this.
I know. Damn. Okay. Hi, how you going?
Oh, that's
Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good.
I've come from Melbourne, and I came out to LA one summer.
God, it's amazing.
Is that good?
That's really good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
The Melbourne is a nice touch.
Yeah, right?
Somebody, there's a comedian that does a bit about like you gear to the sure. You like put an R at the end of words that don't have. Are you gearing to the sure?
You gear to the sure.
I don't know if that's correct. Oh, we're gonna get so many comments from Aussies watching
I know,
this.
right?
Aussie hate mail.
I know, right? Well, we are having a really good time. So for you, what's the most fun part about playing Milo?
Oh gosh, I'd have to say the sort of scenes where it's such a great group of people, and I know all casts probably say that when they come to these shows, but there's like a real vibe on our set, and the sort of scenes where we're all there and we're all like, if we're stuck on the bus or we're all in that kind of group circle situation, it's just a really fun group to be around, and everyone's so sort of idiosyncratic and different, from like Luke to myself to Keisha Castle-Hughes or whomever. It's just, and everyone kind of jokes around, and it's just a really fun vibe. And it also is just such like a sort of weird Frankencast of people. Like everyone's so different.
So
and
different.
unique.
I mean, you can see in the show, like even the characters are so different, but they have this one thing that they're all, brought together by.
But the scenes where you really get like the Cameron nuggets, and there's so much of the show that I find out after the fact is like things that actually happened to him because of his background touring with all the bands he toured with in the 70s when he was a
Working
writer.
for Rolling Stone, and
When
stuff like that.
when he was a writer for Rolling Stone. And so like that scene, can we talk about the episode yet?
Yeah,
Let's
do
definitely.
it.
Let's dive
do
in.
it.
So in the morning circle in the episode where Luke does this amazing speech, and it was really unbelievable to be there sort of on the day when he's talking about this Led Zeppelin show in Denver, and it was the first time Denver set foot in North America and played the show. And like
1968. he said.
yeah, exactly. And to be in the room and witnessing like those words and the synthesis of someone like Luke, who is has this unbelievable sort of truth that just oozes out of him.
Yeah.
And like being there and getting to watch that over and over again is like that kind of, and that he captures the vibe in that scene. But moments like that where you're like, oh, this is what the show is about, and we're all here. And a lot of times it's scenes where you're just kind of listening and kind of bearing witness to something. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really
Absolutely.
cool. Now, are you much of are you like a rock and roll nerd yourself, or what do you listen to?
I grew up playing music, so I play guitar, and so just by virtue of that, like I definitely listen to music. But I had this weird thing where, like, when I moved to LA, of course, on KCRW, there's the great show Morning Becomes Eclectic, which is like the best way to stay sort of in touch with music in general, because you just, especially when Shazam came out and you could drive around.
And be like, oh God, what is this song?
You pull over and then you
you don't Shazam and drive.
But then like I was really like in tune with the music, and then I don't know, the last couple of years, like I kind of fell off. Like I just was not. It just was so much work to keep up with what was going on, and having grown up at a time where you listen to albums and like that was such a thing, and seeing that go away too, is I think in part taken away from my music listening. But being on the show again has really got me back into that. So like the stuff, like I kind of listen to the same thing and kind of just go deep dives with it. Like I'm a big like Wilco fan, and like My Morning Jacket and sort of other bands, and then like all the old stuff that I listened to growing up, like Zeppelin and things like that. But the show definitely, like, bands like Lucius that I never really knew
Exactly,
about.
and that's what I love about the show, is that they, bring these bands that, might be very popular with a certain group of people, but not, say myself, and gives them that platform to be like, this is our band, we are actually real, and they get free publicity and they're on an awesome show. I think it's really cool.
Yeah. And the way Lucius came about too is Rafe had seen them on, I think, Colbert play, and like went up to Cameron, was like, you got to check out this band, and literally within a week they were like booked to be on the show.
Really?
Which is like, and that's
so
kind of
awesome.
And that's kind of like the vibe on the set. It's like very fluid, like that, and that's like, it was really awesome. So.
Well, the last episode we had Lindsey Buckingham as the opening act, so I'm hoping that are we gonna Madison, do you think, as someone who doesn't know what's going to happen in this season, are we going to continue to see like actual real bands continue to open?
I think so. Yeah. You know how we had the Rainn Wilson cameo? I feel like we're going to get cameos from all these up and coming artists, or not even up and coming, already established, but maybe not, like I said, as well known.
Yeah, I had never heard. I didn't know Lucius. I googled that while I was watching the episode, and I was like, oh, they are a real band. I hadn't heard. I didn't know them, but I liked them watching the episode. I love any harmonizing. Anybody that's skilled in that, I'm enjoying. So.
They just have such like power and that whole thing when they're on the mic looking at each other. So I don't know, it just was amazing.
Definitely.
That's another really cool part about the show, obviously, is when you're there on the days that the bands come in.
Yeah.
Is like, I mean, that's just amazing.
Super cool. I mean, it would have been so fun to meet Lindsey Buckingham, and
he's awesome.
And I don't even know who's coming up.
Yeah.
Right. Speaking of, when you said the best part of, one of the best parts of playing Milo and this job is when you guys are all together, those scenes where you're all together and vibing. Is any of that ever improv, or is that all scripted, or do you guys get does Cameron give you guys freedom to, just improv and do the scene as it goes?
There are a couple of scenes definitely on the bus where there are a couple of days where Cameron would sort of like, we'd just sort of be back there, like in the back of the tour bus, like hanging out, and he, unbeknownst to us, would just start rolling camera and rolling sound. And so some of the things you see of us just kind of like hanging out are really just that. And there's a lot of improvisation in those scenes, and there's a lot of sort of, and even if the sort of guide of the scene is there, we'll sort of riff off of it and stuff like that. And then also he incorporates parts of everyone's sort of musical taste and sensibility to the show as well,
Yeah,
so
that's awesome. That's so cool. That would, for me, be like the most fun part, is not knowing that they're rolling and just doing the improv and seeing how far you can go.
It's crazy. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, he's been rolling for the last like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And we thought we were like waiting for a lighting setup or something like that. It's really cool.
Were you a fan of Cameron Crowe before it started?
Yeah, I was a really big fan. It was a really thing I had to get over.
Was it a fangirl moment, fanboy moment?
Yeah, and it's a funny thing because it's really interesting about, well, first of all, yes. So like just growing up, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Say Anything, Singles, just Jerry Maguire, and then Almost Famous. Like just all of those movies were just such like massive movies in my
seriously.
life. So when I got the audition and like had to go in for him, the general sort of feeling often when that happens, when it's kind of like this dream part, is like, oh, this is never going to happen. So like you kind of go in and I'm like freaking out because it's Cameron Crowe, and then you kind of get into shooting it, and I don't know, it's really difficult to get over. But Cameron has this thing, and it totally makes sense like why he was sort of so successful as a journalist for Rolling Stone. Like he's a really, really nice person, but you just kind of like, he just gives off this kind of vibe of just like love and positivity like all the time, and everyone just kind of wants to, you just want to like spill your soul to him. And it totally makes sense that like he was like this kind of vehicle for getting access to all these people that were so difficult for Rolling Stone to get access to, and to get, and I'm sure like people just loved him and were like, like let's bring him on the road. Like,
would you say he's kind of like Wes's character?
Definitely.
Yeah.
He's a little bit like everybody's character in some way.
Yeah.
For sure. But definitely like that
Wes
whole thing
seems to be the very lovable, like, listen, let's have some espresso, let's talk, Well,
the line that Wes always says is that people just tell me things.
Yeah.
So that's completely Cameron.
Oh, cool.
That's so awesome.
It's really cool.
Let's talk about the episode a little bit. So this episode, we find out that Shelley, again, is...
that supermoon had her all sort... She was like a dog in heat. Literally every person that came by, she was just like... Male, I should say. She was like, oh, come here. Let me touch you. Yeah. I was like, Shelley, get down, girl.
She hasn't been able to get a hold of her husband. They've been having these like phone sex sesh, trying to keep it feisty that way, and it hasn't been... apparently hasn't been going very well.
She said she felt very, disconnected with him, which is so sad because Shelley's awesome, and it's like, obviously we don't again really know her backstory and how her and her husband came to be husband and wife and whatnot.
I think his name's Sean.
Sean. Yep. Yeah. So it's like, I just feel bad. I want her to be single, but as the episode goes on,
and then like we talked about the Morning Circle and the Led Zeppelin and Fact. So that was really fun to learn about Denver. They had just come from Omaha. This episode takes place in Denver.
Love Denver.
This is there's a supermoon going on,
and Puna feels a darkness coming, as Bill was saying.
Puna's he just joined the crew. The supermoon only comes around every 37 years, so that's one thing that Bill points out. I was just listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson was on some late night show though, and everybody was asking. Somebody asked him like, oh, isn't it so super cool when like the supermoon, it only comes around this many times. He's like, it's completely arbitrary. Like there's a special moon that only comes around every 150 years, like every other day.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
It was like,
There's so many special moons.
It becomes a hashtag and everybody gets really
it's
into
like
it.
National French Friday. Today is actually National Tequila Day, and I refrained.
I knew that
before I came here. So
I
you guys
did
are
not.
lucky. No, I'm
I
kidding.
did not. I
But
went to a
every
pool
day
party this afternoon.
Every day is a national day. There's always a new moon or whatever. So
Yeah.
just celebrate every day is the message.
You know who's really up on the national days is the William Shatner Twitter feed.
Oh, really?
Really?
He like posts every day. He knows exactly what national day it is. And he shares it with the world. He does. It's
Is there a
amazing.
National William Shatner Day?
Not yet.
Not yet. Maybe it's the day he was born.
Yeah.
William Shatner. Get on
Perhaps.
that.
What is with William Shatner and George Takei being so good on social media? They know what they're doing.
I know, and William Shatner is really old, right?
He's in his 80s. He's like very sad.
And he doesn't look like he's in his 80s, but okay, anyways. So back to the show. Yes, so
Yes.
the supermoon, the supermoon's got us going off on the wrong thing, but yeah.
So in this episode, before they get Lucius to open for them, Milo suggests that his band, Black Atlantis,
Yes.
should be the opener, and that's like quickly dismissed. They already have Lucius gonna be open for them in this episode for who knows how long.
And the look of disappointment on your face, you poor thing.
There's going to be many more of those.
Yeah.
I assure you.
Yeah.
Milo is a disappointed man, I feel like, in life.
Are we? Let's see. I wonder, Madison. Do you think we're gonna see Milo play? Are we gonna get to see him like on stage?
I hope. I think maybe towards the end you're gonna get your big break.
We shall see.
Da, 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 da.
Yeah, exactly.
But you said you do play guitar, right?
I do.
Do you sing?
I do.
You do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we happen to have one right here.
Yeah, right
This
now.
was totally not planned.
Hey, the accent now
Get
you.
the tuner? Yeah, exactly.
But also, this whole thing with Kellyanne and Reg, everyone's like, oh, your new boyfriend, and blah, blah, blah. And your character Milo, is just livid about it.
Yes, well, Milo was very into Kellyanne and still is.
Right. So,
And is crestfallen over this whole development.
yeah. So, is there a backstory between you guys, or is this just puppy love for Milo?
There is a backstory. There was, where was it? Oh, God, what was the city? Anyway, it was Philadelphia. No, it was Philadelphia. So, before the show started, some event happened.
Okay.
That Imogen and I sort of agreed on that they basically perhaps hooked up.
Okay.
But the event was something that maybe they didn't. So our whole thing was like, I bet they were drinking or something was happening. They woke up in the same bunk, and she's like, "Oh my God," and Milo's like, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
And Milo thinks something happened, but in fact, probably nothing happened.
Right.
But it's like that's kind of the vibe. So it's
Okay.
mass miscommunication because that's so much about kind of what. Like in any family or anything like behind the
Yeah.
scenes,
Right.
it's like this whole just web of mass miscommunication.
Well, it
So-
also seems like Milo is the most like superstitious. I don't know if that's the word, but like
Yes.
he didn't want any inter-crew like mingling, and like the last episode with like this Cincinnati and everything that had to go through with breaking the curse
eggs,
and
yeah.
stuff like that. Like
conspiratorial.
yeah,
for sure.
yeah, conspiratorial and like looking out for the best interest of the tour and
Yeah.
the best interest of the crew and everything
Right.
like that.
Yep.
And so obviously we know Bill and Rick have a history. But
Yes.
do Milo and Rick, because your character seems to like fawn over Rick. You came down to when you needed the needle in the butt. You were like, oh, I'm here for you.
Right. Well, there is this like when you talk to some of the techs and the roadies that we worked with, there is this kind of for people who've been with someone for a long time. So like Lindsey Buckingham's guy is like his body man. Like he's amazing and he knows how to like dial his guitar and his amp and everything. But he's like got like if someone to come in and like try to attack Lindsey Buckingham, this guy would take him out. It's like, yeah, he's like the guy. And like, so people who've been with them for a while, there's a real feeling of responsibility for the artist, and particularly when they're on stage, stuff like that. But I think this transference happens, and particularly though with Milo, because I think he's very impressionable, and I imagine something to this level happened with like Elvis Costello and like taking on the accent. So with Rick, he's just like as in episode 4, the episode before this, when he's like, he's my responsibility, that line when Rick goes like missing. This whole, I don't know, he's like really, really, exactly. So this whole thing that happens later, I'll let you guys get into it, but I think absolutely I think in some weird way also kind of wants to be like, he wants to be on stage. He wants to be back in Atlantis. He wants to be like Rick.
Yeah.
Like it's like that whole
that makes sense.
thing.
You can I think you can see that. Yeah.
I have a backstory too that like the beard is because Rick has a beard, Milo grew a beard. It's like this whole thing like he just wants to like anything Rick. He's like
anything Rick is, Oh God, does that mean Milo finds a Natalie?
Yeah.
Whoa,
well, we'll have to see it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If you want to get into how Rick, how do we find Rick in his room during his rave with Natalie? He, like, I wouldn't say OD, but I guess has so much a mixture of what was it? Xanax.
Are you talking about last episode?
No, this episode. Xanax, beer, and then Sudafed or something like that, and he passes out. Lunesta.
Vicodin.
Vicodin.
Beer. I think we could call it an overdose.
Yeah, okay. It was somewhat of an overdose.
It's a comedic overdose, if that's possible.
Exactly. And him and Natalie, the crazy stalker who is now allowed on the tour, is they're having a little rave in the room, and then Kellyanne rips down the curtain, is like, all right, show's over, and then Rick just passes out and then has to get a save shot into his butt.
Yeah. I mean, how great is Rick, though? Played by Chris Backus. It's like unbelievable. It's really funny. And he like totally is. You're just like, he's just like a rock star.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then we see, he's brought back to life. He goes on with the show, and then he's talking to Lucius after the show, and totally just like kind of sexist, but like in a really nice, positive way.
Very sexist.
Yeah.
But just like probably true to how those kinds of things go down and on a real tour for a band of that caliber.
Well, he was so good at, and I think that, like, I'm sure Cameron gave this note, but it's so specific because it's so oblivious to how self-centered he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's so, like, true of, like, the great line that Chris House has in the episode when they're like, we'll just get her a ticket. He's like, wait, Denver's not sold out? And that whole like, it's so these guys are so like self-involved.
Yeah.
But it's like such a little kind of touch of that. And like, so is Chris Backus' character, Rick, the bassist, is so like completely oblivious and self-involved to like the world around him. He's just like this kind of bear in a china shop.
Yeah.
Like a bull in a china shop going through everything. Yeah.
Hey, a bear works too.
A bear would be
California,
terrifying.
a bear. So
this is the bear state. Yeah.
I do like the detail that I hadn't caught before, if it has been mentioned before, but like in talking about like how Milo had toured with Elvis Costello, but when Shelley is talking about her husband Sean on tour, she says that he was on tour with Taylor too, like coming out of space. Did you catch that?
I did, but I don't know. I didn't like make note of it.
Well, it was the first I noticed about it, so I was like, wait, have we met Sean yet? And I missed that.
You've not met Sean yet.
We've not met Sean.
Definitely not.
Okay.
He's only been discussed, but he is involved with the Taylor Swift tour.
Okay.
I find it's such a funny detail that they wrote that Taylor Swift's tour is in outer space. I was super enjoying that.
Right.
Especially since Taylor Swift is like so so much in the headlines right now.
Yeah, and constantly.
There's
always.
no way to insert the like Kardashian feud at this point, but it's just very topical.
Yeah.
So.
And I don't know, he didn't perform it. Didn't Justin Timberlake like buy a seat didn't somebody on a Russian like spaceship or something like that?
I think
right?
so. I think it was
No,
not.
wasn't it Lance Bass?
It was Lance Bass.
But he ended up not going. He was supposed to go up to the space station, but then something happened, and
he was like, "Actually, I'm not going to go to space." He changed his mind. He's like, I don't think this sounds pretty dangerous.
I think it was around the time he probably got married or was supposed to get married. So he's probably like, if I don't come back, my fiance is screwed. Like, and I'm screwed too if I don't come back.
Yeah.
So
Going to space is another thing. But if anyone were to perform in outer space right now, I'd say Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift would be the one.
In her Bad Blood music video, it kind of looks like they're on Mars or something, like coming through the fire and all that. But again, the supermoon has got me all over the place.
Right.
Tamara, you want to jump into the Bill and Lorraine situation, or you want to kind of?
Oh yeah. First I was going to say we haven't mentioned Mike Finger yet, who is the blogger. They do a good job of incorporating like modern like bloggers and how we have the social media, the big presence on social media that makes such an impact for bands now. And I googled I googled him while the episode was on, and there's actually the Blue and Black fan page like for the show.
Oh,
that,
okay.
That exists now.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
Yeah.
So like you guys should check that out if you haven't already. It's a really fun thing that they made for to like correspond with the show. So that was really fun.
I liked his character. I don't know why Wes was so up in arms about him, saying don't trust him. I don't know. He just seemed very nice, cordial, and maybe he's going to turn his back. But I don't know. He loves and is obsessed with the band. He said, Kellyanne said, you want to meet him after the show, and he was like, no, I keep him here and keep him here. It's almost like he didn't want his view, this precious view, to get ruined or anything.
Yeah, definitely. No, Eli Henry is fantastic in the part, and I think the other thing to think about in the show, which is really interesting, and I was talking about this with somebody the other day. It's so like in terms of the thing about Wes not trusting him and stuff like that. And there are all these little nuggets in Roadies that sort of happen along the way, and I think it's very much like it's almost important to think. It's like this 10-episode thing. It's almost like this 10-episode sort of movie, and the whole thing is this gigantic kind of like arc that everything sort of ties into something. So it's really important to kind of keep the nuggets aloft.
And we've seen them. I mean, we've seen them come to fruition. Things that maybe didn't make sense early on are starting to.
I feel like this particular episode uncovered a lot for me, anyways, because I was just like, who is Lorraine? Who is Janine? Why do they matter? Like, what has happened with their characters and, Bill and Chris's character? So we finally get into both of them in one episode.
It's a lot.
It was interesting that they put them both in the same episode because I'm confusing them in my mind a little bit because they're both sort of the aloof but like meaningful character to both Bill and Chris in the band, and so we meet Lorraine.
Yeah, we meet Lorraine, and again, they gave us those little nuggets that you were talking about. She said, I've forgiven you for almost every event or whatever, but maybe not the last one. But then we don't know what exactly Bill's character did to Lorraine, while he was probably on drinking benders, with Rick and whatnot.
Yeah.
But
she seems super cool, very likable right off the bat.
Yeah, and then Chuck, we hear Chuck's name. I'm not sure if she cheated on Bill with Chuck or that was the rebound. Again, we're getting all these little nuggets. The stories, the pieces of the puzzle are coming together. And then, Bill kind of clears his conscience of whatever he's done to her by writing her a note after he goes into the storage unit to get the jacket for Chris.
Yeah, making amends,
Making amends, yeah.
I think one of the themes of the show definitely is that there's this whole thing, and when you talk to Tex and Roadies about this, there is this kind of call of the road. And a lot of them, this Eric Johnson is one of our technical advisors who is on tour with Neil Young and kind of does a lot of stuff with Neil Young, and he used to be with Pearl Jam for a long time. Oh. And he said that, he's married, and when he comes back home, though, it's like there's this... Like they immediately go on a trip together because there's this like month of like reintegration of him back into the world somehow, and I think that these guys, a lot of these people, and this is not true of like Eric, but a lot of people are sort of like both running to and also running from things. And I think that's kind of a common thing that like people. There's this great line that MGK has as Wes in one of the episodes where he's like, "I don't like my home friends. Like they don't understand like what it's like. I don't like, and I don't like cooking food or whatever, like everyone gets really used to that, and I think that whole bit with Bill is really about that on some level. Like he's been running for years and years, so every stop he goes to, he's reminded of this past where he was kind of like this dark stuff that was going on. So
yeah, absolutely. So
and Janine comes to the Denver show as well, and they make a point to make sure that Janine has seats but does not come backstage.
Yes, definitely not backstage. They put Reg in charge of grabbing her, getting her to her seat, and Reg is totally gonna screw up the whole band. The whole thing. He's gonna drop the ball. The one person that was gonna break up the Roadies crew to begin with is definitely following suit.
And it's a continuing thing. I mean, Reg screws up every episode. He sort of is the Shaggy of the Roadies crew.
He's the Shaggy of the Roadies crew.
That's a good one. Good comparison. Yeah, I mean, because he just seemed to adore Janine, just like looking at her constantly, just like, okay, and they sit together at the concert, and then after the concert, they have a moment at the car with the supermoon, and she touches his head, and he's just like, oh my god,
Yeah.
And she almost invites him over to get some aloe, but then doesn't.
Yep.
So you as Milo, what would happen to the Roadies crew if he had gone there to her house? Do you think they would have hooked up and would just torn apart the band, or what?
I think the vibe with Janine in one of these instances of in this sort of situation is like, it's kind of like that, and not directly this, but it's probably that kind of like Yoko Ono sort of like band breaker upper fear vibe. Do you know what I mean? And like they're just people who carry off that sort of vibe on some level. And like, I have nothing against Yoko Ono, but like there was definitely that contingent when that was all going on with the Beatles. So I think there's that kind of thing. So I think anything that potentially jeopardizes Milo's job or is remotely interesting on like a conspiratorial level is he's all in on.
Yeah.
So anything that there's a whiff of like paranoia or something he can stress about, I think Milo feels very comfortable in a state of stress and paranoia.
And panic.
Fear.
He thrives off of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is so unhealthy.
I know. If only there
Damn it,
was
Milo.
the road therapist. Yeah,
Right?
we could address this.
I liked the Janine character so much because she just seemed like just cool chick who just trying to have a normal life, and I can't help that somebody fell in love with me and wrote a song about me that became this huge.
Yeah,
it's like every chick's dream to have some,
And played by Julia Williams, the singer, and that's her first time acting.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And you said she's a Nashville performer?
Yeah, she's like a big sort of country singer-songwriter sort of performer. She's she's got a huge following, and she
Great.
Cameron sort of knew her, and they had her come in and read.
Okay, I was gonna say, was it kind of like
she killed it. She's
the
unbelievable.
Lucius? He saw them or heard them, and maybe saw her, heard her, and thought
It's
she was
something like that. I don't know exactly what the
Yeah.
story is, but she came in and read, and she'd never done anything before, and she's like unbelievable. And
That's she's really good. And luckily, we get to see her in the next episode because Reg, of course, starts thinking with a smaller head and says, "Yeah, you should come back for night 2," and wants to get her backstage, which is a big no. Reg.
This episode is like Midsummer Night's Dream. It's like all these like lovers, and this, like, it's all gonna come to a head.
All
in this
came
movie.
together in this one episode.
Yeah.
And so I guess let's go ahead and jump to the end, the climax, so to speak, of the episode.
I know.
As the
Legitimately.
This came a little sooner than I was expecting in the series. Also, so to speak, is that Shelley and Bill finally
totally make love under the supermoon.
It finally happened.
Yeah.
We knew this was coming.
We knew.
From episode 1. We saw this one. This one was a brewing. And so
I think kind of from the beginning when she was like, I'm feeling disconnected to you, it was like, okay, she's totally like her and her husband, little rocky, so she's gonna go find attention.
Been setting up. Not only have they been setting up the chemistry from episode 1, but also they've been setting up that her marriage is rocky from episode 1.
Yeah,
and that he has a lot of relationship troubles too. So. Finally came to fruition.
I'm totally team Shelley and Bill. Like, I was so happy this happened because the chemistry and the sexual tension between them just was building up so much. I'm like, all right, come on, let's do it. And they did, and they were so cute. They're so giggly in it because you could tell they're comfortable,
Yeah.
I don't know. I was like feeling all the feels. So.
Well, it happened for me. I'm surprised that it happened at this point, but also I was suspecting, and I don't know why exactly, but from various things that have been said, I guess I thought that this has happened in the past before between them. Like, I was suspecting that they've had things maybe they haven't slept together before, but like something has happened.
For me,
in the past.
it wasn't that they had slept together in the past or even like kissed, but maybe gotten so close to it, and then I have a husband, or maybe Bill messed up and went drinking or whatnot. But yeah, definitely some deep seated.
Well, I think all these people know that, like, if you you sort of make your own bed on some level, and like if you go down that road, it can get really messy if you're on the same crew with somebody, and that's actually been told to us by a number of people who've actually been in that situation. And I think also too, there was like a lot of times in TV shows, I think they would wait until later on in the season, but there was I think Cameron really felt, and I think it actually is really cool to like, let's get it out there and like see how everyone has to deal with all of this.
Yeah.
That's great.
Which is actually really interesting because then it's like, oh my, because it's not just going to be like, oh, we're going to happily ever after. Like, it's going to be really fucking complicated.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. And as we saw from the preview, Shelley's kind of like, don't ever speak a word of this. And Bill's like, it's fine, it's over.
Yeah.
Which I think really rocks her to her core. I mean, it would rock me. It's like, oh, we just had a special moment. I'm trying to be strong, but I also want you to be like my knight in shining armor and be like, no, I love you. I want you to, you know.
Totally.
I don't know.
No, yeah, absolutely.
I'm a hopeless romantic.
Well, good thing, because Cameron Crowe is too.
Cameron. Is he single? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
He's like a big mystery. I don't know.
You
I don't know the
had me
answer
at
to that.
hello.
Just like the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
All the things that are happening are still very mysterious to me in this in Roadies, you know?
Yeah, he's a very enigmatic man.
Yes.
Yes.
So with Janine and Reg, do we think Kellyanne's going to have a problem with that?
I think so. Should we get into predictions or should we keep talking about this? I don't know.
Before we get into predictions,
Okay.
is there any other point about the episode that we want to hit?
I mean, I just really wanted to get to the whole Bill and Shelley thing. She was on one. She hit on Wes. She hit on her new little assistant, and then obviously went all the way with Bill. And just, I don't know if you can blame it on the supermoon or just her hormones or something, but Shelley was on one in this episode. She was really mean to Kellyanne. Sorry to interrupt.
No, please. No, I was actually just thinking when I was watching it with you guys tonight. It just Carla like gave this great performance because it's like a really complicated thing she was doing.
Yeah.
It's like this kind of whole. There's all this stuff going on, and it's, you know, the husband's pulling, the moon is pulling, Bill's pulling, and then she has her job. It just was really good, really cool episode. And it's funny because a lot of that stuff, you know, when you're shooting it, I've never seen that. Like, you don't see a lot of the other scenes you're doing. So you're like, oh, I remember reading this, and you like, see it come to life. It's really cool.
Yeah, definitely really cool. But yeah, so she was really harsh on Kellyanne about the pictures, and Kellyanne was trying to be artistic with it, and she's like, you know what, you've got someone that likes you, that wants to screw you right here, like, you need to do it, or if anything, for all of us, just be fucking happy, or something like that, and like, you know, stormed out. So the dynamic between Kellyanne and Shelley is very interesting to me. I don't know if Shelley's jealous of Kellyanne, or just everyone's kind of sick of Kellyanne being like, poor me, but I'm a hard ass, so no poor me. I'm not really sure. What do you guys think?
Well, I think part of it is just there's like a Judas treatment of her because she did like leave and now she's like back. And I think there is this, and it is very much like a hazing sort of culture, and I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
But also it's like you got to earn your stripes. You can't just come back. You're not just going to come back in the same position. Even though you left for whatever it was, like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to be that easy.
It's not going to.
Yeah. You made your decision, but you got to earn your spot back at the table.
Yeah.
Demoting her to teleprompter, whatever.
And that kind of like crabbiness and stuff like that is very like of that world. Like I think people are constantly at each other, even if it's just kind of in passing, and sometimes they just are because you're like living with these people on a bus.
Yeah.
And
a lot of different personalities coming together.
Totally.
I mean, I lived in a sorority house, so it's not the same, but it's on the level.
I mean,
next on sorority house.
Yeah, sorority house, roadies.
you have to carry a lot of accessories in both of them.
Yes, exactly.
There's hazing. There's
hazing.
Oh man,
a lot of similarities.
Is that where the similarities end? I feel like that might be where it ends.
Hazing and hazing.
I was just trying to think. Like, there's hazing, and there's lots of people.
And then there's hazing.
Wild hair, lots of long hair.
Yeah, you're living together.
A lot of hairspray in both.
I was gonna say like they wear all black. They're all efficient with like tools and lights, and I was like, that's not that good. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, but back to you said, do you think Kellyanne's going to get pissed about Reg? Yes, 100%. But she's going to play it like, no, because we're not even hooking up. Like, it's this fake made-up relationship, you know?
Yeah.
But I think she's going to be more pissed that he's making a move on Janine, you know, and Kellyanne
Janine especially.
Yeah, especially
While
Janine.
we're talking about that, let's might as well go into predictions because that's pretty much a prediction.
Oh, I like this.
So,
This is gonna be fun.
Yeah. Predictions.
Now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Do you want to lead off the predictions?
Well, I can't. I know it happens.
I know,
This might be
right?
a fun game to judge your predictions. And
Okay.
you can
Mislead us.
You can try to extrapolate what you can from my facial expression to see if you're right. Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess I'll kind of continue, but I'm going to predict that Kellyanne gets infuriated that Reg chooses another girl over her, but especially Janine, because Janine's the one that kind of, I guess, I wouldn't say she started the band, but a majority of their songs are about her.
Yeah.
And it's totally going to throw off the vibe, as you were saying, of the band and the crew and everything.
Okay. I don't know if I agree, because Kellyanne has seemed very lukewarm about Reg. I know that the relationship is sort of heading in that direction, and this episode certainly like propelled their incoming relationship just by everybody else speculating that they've been together, but they both seem to me just have tepid interest in each other at this point.
Well,
so
she started wearing. Donna pointed out she started wearing perfume. What else?
She knows about his socks.
Yeah, his socks. You know, so.
Yeah.
As a girl, and you want to grab the attention of a guy, you start doing little things that you don't think people notice, and then people pick up on it. So I'm gonna have to agree to disagree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like both your predictions. I'll remain neutral.
Okay.
I want to see Milo do some more, get into like more superstitions, more like crazy things that has to, not necessarily like a curse that has to be undone. We've already seen that.
Yep.
But something to the effect of he has to sacrifice something for the good of the tour, because he seems like that kind of guy that would do that.
Yeah. That's a good one.
I like that prediction.
Nice. All right. And I don't see Bill and Shelley. I feel that is a relationship that, to me, seems it's on again, off again. They're a bit of a Ross and Rachel for a while, so I don't know if they're going to be together at the end of the season.
I predict Shelley's going to get divorced. Something's going to happen.
Wow.
I don't know. Something with her marriage is definitely, I mean, it's already falling apart, so.
I do think we're going to find out that Sean is like I don't think he's just a roadie or like a manager or something. Like I want to find out who Sean is.
Yeah. But I think I'm hoping that Bill and Shelley totally work out, but knowing Bill and kind of how he's a ladies' man and just, you know, does whoever, whenever he pleases. So maybe that'll just split them and bring them further apart. I don't know.
I predict you'll be rooting for it to work out.
Okay. There we go. That's a good prediction.
Right? It's very safe.
Yes,
neutral.
very safe and neutral.
Oh, and I'm always super excited about who the guest stars are. I can't wait to see which.
Oh yeah, can we
continues to
expect to see
open-
any more like celebrity
for the
cameos
band.
and
Yes,
stuff?
you can. Can we talk about the one we saw for the teaser for the next episode?
Yes.
Yes.
Mark Maron.
Yes.
Little man
I didn't know.
named Mark Maron.
I think I didn't see the teaser. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark Maron's a lot of fun. Do you listen to his podcast?
I do.
You do?
Yeah, and he's a
awesome.
super cool guy.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's like super
I'm not
down.
familiar with him. I should probably be.
And he is in Almost Famous. Mm-hmm. That's his sort of connection.
Wait, is he who is he in Almost Famous?
Do you remember when Billy Crudup gets electrocuted holding the thing? He's like, "Hey, you guys like wreck. You guys owe me like money. Blah 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 blah." And he's chasing after him in the golf
he's
cart.
like the-
Lock the gate, and that's on the podcast. That line.
Oh,
When it's
okay.
like lock the gate. That's a little drop they do in the podcast.
I had no
cool.
idea.
That's from Almost Famous. Yeah.
You guys, we got a little nugget of info here.
Yay!
From Pete.
Exclusive coming to you live.
just like Rainn Wilson was also in Almost Famous.
That I knew.
Was
yeah.
he really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that movie in forever. Maybe I should watch it
one of my
again.
favorites.
definitely worth a watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. You're so full of knowledge.
I am just full of tidbits,
Tidbits.
Yep.
Little nuggets.
little nuggets.
Before we duck out for the evening, Peter, is there anything that we need to? Any last thoughts? Anything else that
Stuff you're working on?
Yeah.
God, well, geez.
I mean, you're busy.
You need to tell us everything that you're doing right now.
Okay.
Are you going to a barbecue tomorrow? Do you?
I wish, because that'd be a great Monday. No, let's see. We'll watch Roadies, obviously.
Yes.
I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, it's a really interesting. It's just the season really crescendos in a really interesting way, and the musical guests get more.
I'm so excited.
More unbelievable, and then the last episode is like this kind of smorgasbord of great performances.
Who would be your dream guest to have, and maybe in an upcoming season?
Jeff Tweedy. Wilco.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
just like a big, that's my band.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
That'd be super cool.
I mean, is that doable? I feel like that might be.
I might have to.
within
They might have to
thing.
like not have me on set that day
Yeah.
because I might completely.
You might pull a Natalie. And just
I might just like. I would just pass out.
Yeah.
Masturbate with his microphone.
No, well, not that.
I didn't say it. It was not said by me.
Yeah,
There's a
that-
transcript of this read.
Yeah.
Let it be known.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would probably pass out.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
that's a great one. I
Yeah.
really like that one.
Yeah, that'd be good.
All right, cool. Well, that is our recap of episode 5 of Showtime's Roadies. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And please comment, like, share our video. And Madison, where can we find
Yes. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Madison Conklin. You can find me on Twitter at Maddie Says This and on Instagram at Conklin, Conklynn. And a tidbit of that, Conklin is the combination of my middle name and last name.
Oh.
Conklin's my last name, but the way I spell Lynn is my middle name.
Oh, interesting.
Just in case anyone cares.
Just another tidbit.
Little tidbit about Madison.
Yeah.
I'm Tamra Brown. Just Google my name. You can find my handles because they're all different on all the platforms. Oh,
Oh,
wait.
you're Googleable. Good for you. I don't think I'm at that status yet.
I'm going to snap the end of this, Peter.
Yeah. Snap it.
Yeah, let's do a little Snapchat action real quick.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Mind blown. What's
You should-
happening? What are you doing to me?
Oh, hold on, it's blurry.
What?
I always have to clean the lens. All right.
This
So what
is
does this
happening.
mean? What is happening? You're snapping.
Yeah.
It's a video.
Milo on Showtime's Roadies in the studio at AfterBuzz TV.
Peter Cambor.
Snapchat.
Woo! This is his debut on Snapchat.
Oh my God.
You should be so excited.
I should. Okay.
Now you
I
have to
will
get
be.
Snapchat just to follow Tamra
Well, I guess
to
I'm
watch
gonna
your
have
first
to.
Snapchat.
There we go. Yeah.
Peter, where can they find you?
At Peter Cambor, PeterCambor. I always have to spell my last name because it's impossible
Yeah.
to spell. And at Peter Cambor, Instagram and Twitter.
Twitter.
Perfect.
Perfect.
And not on Snapchat yet.
Not yet.
This has been an
Maybe
amazing
today.
episode. Peter, thank you so much for coming in
Thank
and
you so
talking
much
with
for having me.
us,
Thank you
chatting
very
with
much.
us. Keep watching, keep commenting. See you next week.
Yes.
Thank you so
definitely.
much.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.